as a commentator, you're not necessarily on site. So I wanted to do something a little bit special, and I have to say a big thank you to the team at Motorsport TV for allowing me to do this. Commentary is not always necessarily being on site. You are sometimes having to deal with different time zones and different championships, thereby you have to still put into practice what you know through what you've learned over the years and adapt it to a different championship. Now, last year, I got the opportunity to commentate on the Brazilian Stock Car Pro Series, which is the top level of Brazilian racing. It's a touring car series, and a big thank you to my good buddy Jake Sanson for giving me an opportunity last year to commentate for Cascavel and Buenos Aires last year. Quite recently, I commentated on round 5 out of 12 for 2024 at Autodromo Velocitar, which is about 150 kilometers away from the main capital of Brazil, Sao Paulo. But we had 3 exciting races, all was streamed live on Motorsport.tv, and it was an absolute hoot. So I have to firstly say thank you to Jake for the opportunity. Thank you to Motorsport.tv for enjoying the work that I do, and also the fact of the people that I have to work with. Carlos Costa, who is our resident co-commentator and the man who really puts the insight into Stock Car Pro Series from his perspective, and also Mateus, one of the recent additions to the team at Motorsport.tv. So here it is, unedited, in full, with what I see, you see me on the screen, and commentary on the recent GP Toyota 100 at Autodromo Velocitar, celebrating 100 races of Toyota Gazoo Brazil's involvement in the Stock Car Pro Series, which started all the way back in Goiânia in 2020. I hope you'll enjoy this one.
The audio setup is okay then?
You sound great.
All good.
Okay.
And now we've got our Eurofarmer RC lineup confirmed for next year, haven't we?
Yeah, I was live talking about Formula One and then they publish it.
Well, it gives us something to talk about anyway.
Yeah, Gaetano was a bit sad he didn't get the seat that used to belong to Ricardo Mauricio, but now Serra is leaving, so he got the seat anyway.
Yeah.
Starting around 10 minutes,
Uh, we're supposed to
bit
start at
less.
150. Because
Oh,
whenever the anthem ends, we can start.
okay, just get a
Mm-hmm.
bottle of water here.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
No worries. The good thing is, Mateus, is that it's not so hot here in the UK as it was yesterday, so I don't need the tower fan blowing in the background
Oh,
now.
good to know. Yeah.
Yep.
Meanwhile, today's the opposite here. I'm almost freezing here. It's even colder than it was yesterday.
Oh,
Yesterday night was just miserable. Like it was. I think. Well, I know in the UK it's not as bad, but like for us, we're not. We don't really have insulations. Like 9, 7 degrees. It's like almost freezing point for us.
oh man.
Right now in here it is 15. So yeah, it's a slightly colder than it was yesterday.
Mhm.
Okay, they're gonna play the anthem now.
Yep.
Extra hot, break a leg.
Well, after the customary playing of the Brazilian national anthem, welcome back to Motorsport TV for live coverage of the feature race for Stage 5 out of 12 for the 2024 Brazilian Stock Car Pro Series, the GP Toyota 100, celebrating 100 races of the involvement of Toyota Gazoo Racing Brazil in the Stock Car Pro Series. You join myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Carlos Costa. And breaking news just a few moments ago, we found out who officially will be the second driver in the all-new lineup for 2025 in Stock Car Pro Series, joining the 2016 Stock Car Pro Series champion, the youngest man ever to do so in the series history, over 45 years, Felipe Fraga, will be joined by yesterday's sprint winner, Gaetano Di Mauro. Carlos, it sets the scene. Silly season in Stock Car Pro Series is well underway for 2025, but we've got a fantastic race to look forward to here at the Autodromo Velocità.
Well underway indeed, Alex. Very big pleasure to be here with you to broadcast one more round of the Brazilian Stock Car Pro Series. And important news when the matters driver market, as you told. Gaetano Di Mauro will be alongside Felipe Fraga in the Eurofarma team. We had the expectation that Serra would continue in the team after the story that Ricardo Mauricio is leaving was, of course, published a couple of days ago. A couple of weeks ago, actually, and now Ricardo Mauricio has to find his way, his new home and team for the 2025 season, in which we'll have new spec of cars. But Daniel Serra, as far as I know, is already negotiating with a new sponsor and a new structure. So we'll definitely be seeing Serra in the championship next year. Still to be confirmed, the team and the sponsorship, but I believe Ricardo Mauricio will also find a competitive squad in order to continue his incredible journey. We are talking about two guys that are three-time champions of the series, but Eurofarma decided not to stay with Ricardo Mauricio, and Daniel Serra apparently chose to leave. So we'll have Felipe Fraga, the youngest ever champion of the series, and as you said, yesterday's sprint race winner, Gaetano Di Mauro, that was already let's put it that way, under the helm of Eurofarma, because one of the friends of Eurofarma, that is Valda, is the main sponsor in Gaetano Di Mauro's car in the Cavaleiro Sports team. He's currently teammate of Nelson Piquet Jr. So it will be an intense, silly season and driver market from now on.
Yes, of course, you'll have to catch up with all the news on not just motorsport.com Brazil, but also here on motorsport.tv, right the way through till the end of what has so far been a fantastic 2024 championships year. It's going to be the last time that the sedans that you see will visit Velocità. Of course, there's quite a few more races next time out. At the return to Goiânia on the 27th and the 28th of July will hit the halfway point of what has become a very unpredictable and very much undecided way in which we're going to find out who will be our 2024 champion before we head to the new generation of stock cars, which will be lighter, more aggressive, and also tailored to the Brazilian SUV stock SUV automotive market, with Mitsubishi coming back after over a decade away from the sports. They'll make their return with the, if I remember, I think it's the Eclipse Cross. We've got the we've got the other cars as well, Carlos, which I know you've talked about. We are waiting for a fourth manufacturer to be confirmed, and Fernando Giulianelli and the team at Vicar are working tirelessly. The 2025 stock car itself has been running on demonstration runs so far this season as the drivers are getting themselves ready. We're just about 10 minutes away from lights out here, a 50-minute plus one additional lap race. Of course, 80 points up for grabs for the race winner, Julio Campos, who took pole position in what was a very, very mixed qualifying session early yesterday, Carlos, because he was fastest when he needed to be fastest, and the fastest driver out of everybody, Felipe Massa, is starting all the way down in 12th position. And this is going to be rather interesting for our final visit with these current generation of stock cars here to Velocità.
Yeah, definitely. Action-packed weekend so far. Of course, we will see a lot of things happening in the feature race of this stage 5. We had, of course, the rescheduled feature race of stage 2 on Friday. The qualifying and the sprint race for this round. And as you said, Massa was starting ahead of the pack. He had on Friday a suspension problem that completely ruined his feature race that was rescheduled, and then yesterday a little bit of bad luck as well for the TMG Racing squad, as we see the fight for the race win there. Eventually, of course, we saw that Gaetano Di Mauro was the most competitive guy in the sprint, as now we see the replay of the incident between Casagrande and Júlio Campos. Casagrande also involved in another incident there with another rival that was Thiago Camilo. And by the way, the reigning champion has to bounce back, but he has a pretty decent grid position for this feature race. And of course, talking about the new cars that will be seen in the Stock Car Pro in 2025, we'll have the Eclipse Cross with the rejoining Mitsubishi brand, and apart from that, the Toyota Corolla Cross from Toyota, of course, and the tracker model of the Brazilian market from Chevrolet, as we see the scenes of Serra's win in the rescheduled feature race on Friday. But anyway, it will be an interesting scenario for next year, and of course, we still have a lot to be decided on 2024.
Yeah, looking back at the sprint race, Dudu Barrichello was looking to go round the outside. There's the big moment for Gabriel Casagrande, who not only got spun around thanks to Ricardo Mauricio going to the side of Rubens Barrichello, but his front bumper got hit by Alan Cordair. Then you saw a bit of a squeeze here between the likes of Gabriel Robe, also Lucas Cole. There was the battle for the race lead. Massa locking up his rear brakes, Camilo trying to avoid, and then Rafael Suzuki would come into play. Then Cacabueno, the 5-time series champion, would suffer broken left rear suspension. Then Suzuki, having one of the biggest dramas of the season so far, into the back of Rafael Teixeira. Gaetano Di Mauro hitting his marks, but then this drama happened. Wheel gun failure for Felipe Massa whilst the team was changing the right rear on the pit box, and it allowed Dudu Barrichello to get in front of the number 19, who was very much on the charge. But Dudu Barrichello would find his way through in between Gaetano Di Mauro. Then we saw this drama between Gianluca Pentecoff and Enzo Elias, who ended up breaking his suspension. But Gaetano Di Mauro became the first double winner of the season so far. He earlier on this year won at Stage 3, the feature race at Interlagos, and now he becomes a sprint race winner for the first time this season yesterday. But we have 29 cars set to take to this 3.443 kilometre 12-turn anti-clockwise circuit, and it really is a test for everybody. Brakes have been a talking point. Also, opportunities for overtaking have been at their premium. We've seen dramas from Felipe Baptista and Artur Leist, who both went off at the same point in the circuit. I think it was turn 8 and turn 9. You've got this big dip down, and they both locked up their brakes whilst, and this was what Carlos noticed, was the push to pass. If you hit the push to pass activation coming out of turn number 7 and heading into turn 8, you really have to be on your A game to lock up the anchors, as all 29 6.8 litre V8 powered stock cars roar to life here on the start finish line. And this is a great sight to see from the drone shots we're getting here, Carlos. I can't wait. This GP Toyota 100 is going to be a classic.
Yeah, and there we see the replay of one of the decisive moments of yesterday's sprint race, the moment in which there is an issue with the wheel gun there, and Felipe Massa's pit stop, and then he lost a lot of positions. Eventually, he was able to bounce back to 4th, but of course, a bittersweet sensation for him and the whole team, because they are showing pace actually from the rescheduled feature race on Friday, and of course having a lot of bad luck, especially Rafael Suzuki that was out of both races so far this weekend. Let's see what he will be able to do today, but an interesting scenario ahead of us, a little bit of a weather change between this Saturday and now Sunday. Of course, missed conditions now, but I believe it won't be raining. That's a concern, as now we see the Fan Push Internet Poll winners. Cacabueno, Vitor Batista, Rafael Suzuki, Massa, Barrichello, and Alan Cordair. They all have extra pushes in this race, which is very important. Of course, we don't have that all-important refueling strategy that we had until the end of 2023 when we had 2 back-to-back races on Sunday, but now saving pushes is important. They have a certain amount of pushes for each race weekend, and of course they have to save it for the feature race. For example, Nelson Piquet Jr. told us in an interview after the sprint race yesterday that he didn't use any push at all in the sprint, so that's something to take into account.
That's a lot of opportunity for that driver there, as we see the drivers roll off of the start-finish line here at Velocita for Stage 5. It's the feature, it's the GP Toyota 100, celebrating 100 races of Toyota Gazoo Racing Brazil's involvement in the Stock Car Pro Series. Let's bring you the grid for the feature race, the GP Toyota 100. Starting from 29th position will be the number 37 of Rafael Teixeira in the Chevy Cruze. Just in front of him will be the Woken Gara pairing. 28th, Lucas Cole. 27th, Gabriel Robe. Then, last year's Stock Series champion, Cezinho Mujati, will be joined by Gianluca Pentakov. Then it's Caca Bueno and Vitor Baptista. Next up, 22nd and 21st, Attila Abreu and Alan Kodair. Rounding out the top 20, Lucas Foresti and Nelson Piquet Jr. Ricardo Zonta and Ricardo Mauricio are next up. Arto Laced and Daniel Serra round out row 8. Row 7 completed by Rubens Barrichello and Felipe Fraga. Row 6, Felipe Massa and Thiago Camillo. Completing the top 10 will be Rafael Suzuki and Duru Barrichello. Row 4 is Gaetano Di Mauro and Felipe Baptista. Row 3 is Cesar Ramos and Bruno Baptista. And the penultimate front row of the grid behind the front row, Guilherme Salas and the defending champion Gabriel Casagrande and Enzo Elias and pole sitter Julio Campos will start from the front row of the grid. And we talked about qualifying yesterday, Carlos, that yes, there is a possible changing of the guard with the younger drivers that we're seeing, especially a champion who's very, very young, but he's a two-time champion of the series, Mateus Vogels, Gabriel Casagrande. But Julio Campos knew exactly what to do, and he picked up his 6th Snapdragon pole position of his career. It's going to be a very, very fast run, a short run into turn 1 when we get into the rolling start.
Definitely. Nice to see Julio Campos back on pole position, and actually he has, in a way, a former teammate alongside him in the front row. We have two sister teams, TMG and Crown TMG. Enzo Elias, teammate of the current leader of the series, that is Felipe Batista, in the Crown team. Julio Campos that swapped seats with Rafael Suzuki. Rafael Suzuki now driving alongside Felipe Massa in the TMG Racing squad. Julio Campos now one of the drivers of Pole Motorsport. That is one of the teams that may have an important involvement in the driver market as well. But Campos is a very experienced driver. He was actually the most veteran guy in yesterday's Q3 in fight for pole position. And now let's see if he's able to hold Enzo Elias, a former Porsche Cup Brazil champion, in the rolling start.
So, the Chevrolet Camaro pace car pulls away. It's down to the front row to control proceedings as we are set and under starters' orders for the GP Toyota 100 Stage 5 feature here at Velocita as they now go into the acceleration zone. Red lights on the gantry. Now they accelerate. The GP Toyota 100 is underway here at Velocita. And a good run by the pole sitter Julio Campos as Enzo Elias slots in behind. Gaetano Di Mauro looking to go round the outside of Gabriel Casagrande at turn 1, and he's halfway past him, but he's got a bit deep, and he's going to run a little bit wide. Casagrande on the run down to turn number 2 is going to get back into 3rd position. Meantime, Baptista and Ramos battling over 5th and 6th place. As well, there's been dramas. I think Rafael Suzuki has dropped to the back end of the field. As off onto the grass, that was Nelson Piquet Jr. Nearly 3 wide behind Duru Barrichello, including his old man Rubens, as we run on board with Ricardo Zonta. He's just behind Daniel Serra in the number 29. Oh, Rubens Barrichello off the circuit on the run through into turn 6 and turn 7. Dramas for the two-time champion, but he gathers it back up.
Yeah, I'm a bit crazy race start in the middle of the pack, but also in the back end of it. Julio Campos with a clean jump there. Now Ricardo Zonta tries to overtake Ricardo Mauricio. This is the final sector that is a quite tricky.
Yeah, it is. I did actually see that there was contact between Zonta and Mauricio heading into turns 8, 9 and 10. But after the opening lap, Julio Campos in the number 4 Pole Motorsport leads the way. Enzo Elias is going to be the best part of just over half a second behind. We ride on board with the 81 of Artur Leicht, who currently at the minute is running in 14th position. Nearly 5.5 tenths of a second between the top two. And, well, Duru Barrichello still running in 9th. His father Rubens running in 12th. Behind, well, he's ahead of now of Felipe Fraga. Rubens Barrichello started 14th. And still, even at his age, can still get the elbows out and use the controlled aggression when required as the field makes their way through turns 4 and 5. Oh, kick up at the dust by Cesar Ramos on the right-hand side of the number 30 Ipiranga Racing Toyota Corolla. But at the minute, well, Enzo Elias slightly quicker than Julio Campos in the opening sector, as there we see Felipe Baptista trying to close in on Bruno Baptista, who has been passed by Cesar Ramos in the meantime. Then you got everyone flooding through. We're on lap number 2, and people still getting very much on the offensive as at least the top 6 have just activated their push to pass on the run down the hill through into turns 8, 9 and 10. It's a bit like a helter-skelter here, as there was a near attempt by Felipe Baptista to get up the inside on Bruno Baptista. And, well, Ricardo Mauricio, just like yesterday's sprint race, has got the front right wing dangling all over the place, exposing the exhaust tip of the Chevrolet Cruze. But that hasn't stopped drivers before. But still, at the front end of the field, Julio Campos trying to break away from Enzo Elias, and the gap now nearly 6 tenths of a second. This is where saving all those push to passes from yesterday have definitely come into usefulness.
Yeah, and that's the fine line in the strategy. As once more, Ricardo Mauricio has issues with the bodywork, and his fight with Ricardo Zonta continues. Right behind is one of the guys that saved a lot of pushes for today. Nelson Piquet Jr., as I explained, didn't use one single push at all in the sprint. But ahead of the pack, so far so good for Julio Campos, even though he has to manage this situation. It's a longer race than compared to the previous year's format in the series. Rafael Suzuki with another disastrous race. It's important to remember that he got to this event as the championship leader, and now once more with a little bit of bad luck, as Gabriel Casagrande is currently under pressure from Guilherme Salas. Casagrande, that is of course the reigning champion and theoretically one of the title contenders this year, even though he lost a bit of ground in the last couple of races. He has to get closer to Elias rather than being under pressure from Guilherme Salas.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, behind Cesar Ramos, Bruno and Felipe Baptista definitely are fighting tooth and nail. Out of the final corner, we're about to complete lap number 4. Laps being done in around about a low 1 minute 30 around this 3.443 kilometre circuit. As Guilherme Salas trying to close in on current defending champion Gabriel Casagrande. As they come across the line, Elias, this time around, just put in the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 32.001. And that was over a tenth quicker. Meantime, Gianluca Pentecoff going on the offensive against Blau Motorsports number 18, Alamco Dair. And just behind them, there is Attila Abreu in the 51 as they come through out of turn 1, heading into turn 2. And then it's a bit of a twisty maze down the descent. Here, then you see Zezinho Mujati. And look at how close Gianluca Pentecoff is to the rear bumper of Alamco Dair. Meantime, Attila Abreu trying to use the outside line to get through. Nelson Piquet Jr. waiting in the wings to pick up the pieces. And there is Caca Bueno. Great to see the 5-time series champion, who last picked up a title 11 years ago. And he's looking very feisty just behind Zezinho Mujati. So again, just seeing this close pack racing. And in the meantime, Enzo Elias has got the frighteners very much put on Julio Campos in the early stages of the race. At top speed so far, Gaetano Di Mauro who currently sits in 8th place behind Felipe Baptista and ahead of Duru Barrichello, is the fastest driver, around about 145 miles an hour. The top recorded speed by any one driver, with Bruno and Felipe Baptista not too far behind, rounding out the top 3 out of the fastest committed drivers when it comes to top speed in these 6.8 litre V8 cars, producing around 480 to 490 brake horsepower. And they get a good amount of additional push with the push to pass, close to 80 to 100 brake horsepower. But Gabriel Casagranchi still fending off Guilherme Salas. There's Cesar Ramos, Bruno Baptista, Felipe Baptista, Gaetano Di Mauro, Duru Barrichello and Felipe Massa rounding out the top 10. Massa's now up 2 places in the early phase of this race. We're only close to 7 minutes down. And you can see the amount of... It's like these cars just want to vault that crest coming through between turns 4 and 5. But Enzo Elias, very, very much self-assured and looking to see when the opportunity is going to present itself. The gap between him and Julio Campos in the battle for the race lead, still just under half a second. But it's very much a stalemate at the moment here, Carlos. Anything's possible because we've got over 42 and a half minutes still remaining, plus that all-important additional lap.
Yeah, and I think experience may be a decisive factor as well in that fight between Campos and Enzo Elias. Apparently, Enzo is using a little bit more pushes than Campos, of course. We still have to check how the situation is in terms of the pushes that they saved from yesterday's race. So, of course, that's an information we don't have anymore, which is something that we have to clarify. In the first visit to Mogi Guaçu in Velocitar, we had in the broadcast's graphics the information about the remaining pushes. We don't have it anymore because it was a complaint by the drivers and the teams. They don't want to show their strategy to the others. So that's why we don't have it anymore on the graphics.
Yep, and again, the battle continues, and look how it's still flailing about like a good one for Ricardo Mauricio. Oh, that's a squeeze on Ricardo Zonta through turn 1. Also, something else I've noticed with regards to Ricardo Zonta's car, well, Nelson Piquet Jr. going through, and that's a clean move. Of course, that move by Ricardo Mauricio slamming into the side. The right-hand side of Ricardo Zonta allowed Nelson Piquet Jr. to get through. Zonta has also got a little bit of alignment on the right front door. It's actually, that might be hindering his aerodynamics on that car, because that you can see the door is actually slightly ajar from the top, so it's a little bit cambered at the minute. Well, Julio Campos, new fastest lap of the race, 1:31.743, and he's now pulled a gap of over a second ahead of Enzo Elias, and the record of the circuit back last year, Ricardo Zonta, 1:31.6, so not too far away from the all-time lap record. And of course, for the new generation cars, they are going to be faster. They're lighter, there's more of a carbon composite structure, ArcelorMittal being the people that have been brought in by Vicar to bring a same dimension tube, but with additional rigidity, meaning better safety. There's a great battle here now. This is the battle for P5. Cesar Ramos from Ipiranga Racing in the number 30. Bruno Baptista is trying to pull alongside him on the run down to turn 2, but the number 30 thwarts the number 44 as they go down the hill through turns 3 and into 4.
Yeah, nice fight there between Ramos and Batista. And of course, in the previous fight, we have to remember that, in a way, Zonta and Mauricio are teammates. RCM Motorsport, that is Zonta's team, is the sister squad to Eurofarma RC. Now we see the replay of the race start. Quite clean race start, even though we had some fights here and there in the middle of the pack. Yeah,
obviously, Rafael Suzuki was in the pit lane. He was due to start P10, so it meant we had a gap on the grid. I was wondering why there was someone not on the circuit. So Rafael Suzuki 3 laps down as Nelson Piquet Jr. round the outside whilst using push to pass on Ricardo Mauricio. So hold on to your hats, folks. Nelson Piquet Jr. is fired up and is filled to the brim with push to pass, and he's probably used quite a few activations. That now puts the first ever Formula E champion and also XF1 driver up to what is now, well, he's definitely going up the order. He's now 16th, and the next couple of targets on his list. Okay, how's this for a hit list for Nelson Piquet Jr.? Daniel Serra, Artur Leis, Felipe Fraga, and maybe a few more in front, maybe the likes of Rubens Barrichello and Thiago Camillo, who at the moment are currently rounding out 11th and 12th position. And still the battle rages on between RCM Motorsports, Bruno Baptista, and Ipiranga Racing's Cesar Ramos. Daniel Serra in the pits. Looks like right side tyres changed for the three-time series champion, picking up 3 titles from 2017 to 2019. So the last person to secure at least 2 titles on the bounce. As there's Vitor Batista's car going off the jacks. That was both right side tyres. Looks like the teams are favouring that, but the gap is expanding. Campos is pulling away from Enzo Elias. And the gap now, 1.4 seconds and climbing here, Carlos. This is where Julio Campos really feels comfortable. He's got a lead and he's comfortable.
And we have seen Campos sometimes trying an overcut strategy. Let's see if it will be the case on this feature race. I think it was Ricardo Mauricio pitting there. We still have to confirm this, but Serra is still ahead of Nelson Piquet Jr., at least in the live timings that we have here. And now Bruno Batista pitting. So we have to check how these strategies will unfold, because Ricardo Mauricio was the first to stop, considering the whole grid, as soon as the pit window was open.
Yeah, my apologies, it was Ricardo Mauricio. Bruno Baptista now pits in the number 44, so from 6th position on the field. As there we see, picture in picture, Dudu Barrichello battling away with Felipe Massa. 2 of the drivers who are very much considered in the title hunt for this year's championship. But with 37 minutes, plus an additional lap to go before we head to the return to Goiânia in just a month's time, in the last weekend of July, this GP Toyota 100 has been nothing if not action-packed, and it is a Chevrolet leading the way. I think, well, Carlos, you and I were discussing off-air that, yeah, probably a bit gutting that Toyota with Enzo Elias didn't get that pole position, but Julio Campos taking the Snapdragon Pole Award for this stage of the series by over 0.3 of a second was just absolutely mighty.
Yeah, especially considering how big the gap was. Usually we have very tight sessions in the qualifyings of the Brazilian Stock Car Pro, and it was more than 0.3 of a second of gap between Campos and Enzo Elias. Enzo Elias, that was in a way a surprise in this qualifying. He is a very fast driver, but still adapting to the series. Had his first full-time season last year. Now with Felipe Batista's teammate, it is a quite big challenge for him inside the team. Batista is currently leading the championship after yesterday's sprint race, so a big gap. And Julio, of course, knows the ways with his experience. Cacá Bueno going wide there.
Oh, that's through turn 8 to 9, and he was trying to defend from Zezinho Mujati. So the 5-time series champion against the rookie, last year's Stock Series champion, as Rubinho Barrichello into the pit lane for the Mobile Ale team. So Blau Motorsports, Felipe Fraga goes in as they light up the rear tyres, smoke billowing from the back of the 111 Toyota Corolla. Also, Cacá Bueno has come in. There he is, the number 0. Did a great run in the rescheduled Stage 2 feature from 16th to 8th, and then broken left rear suspension yesterday. Curtailed his efforts in the sprint, and we're seeing pit times for drivers anywhere between 47.5 and 48 seconds. So they have to change 2 tyres on this feature race as opposed to 1 on the sprint. And Carlos alluded to the fact that sometimes some teams will decide to go for more than 2 tyres. So could there be someone in the field that decides that they are going to switch all 4 tyres, have a brand new set of Hankooks on the car, and try and pull away? Well, in the meantime, someone who is pulling away, and he is not looking back at the moment, Julio Campos, really doing a great job so far in this race. We're over 15 minutes in out of the 50, and he is pulling away. I mean, last lap, he took over 0.4, as there is a move by Rafael Suzuki on Rafael Teixeira. Of course, these two may have had a bit of a debrief between themselves personally after the incident, as Nelson Piquet Jr. in the number 33 Cavaliero sports car makes his way into pit lane. And now the team can start to change the tyres. Car up on the air jacks, down on the ground, and lights up the rears. Nelson Piquet Jr. started the race in 19th, and he got himself into the top 12. But again, another difficult race for Rafael Suzuki. Of course, the championship leader's changed 3 times. Well, twice in the last 48 hours. Suzuki came into it as the championship leader. Once we'd done the Stage 2 feature race, it was then Ricardo Zonta, and then, after yesterday's sprint, Felipe Baptista in the 121 from Crown Racing was the new championship leader, but by only 2 points ahead of Zonta. And there you see Cesar Ramos pulling a gap of over a second ahead of Felipe Baptista. And still, at this early stage, it's quite difficult to predict what's going to happen with who's going to pit where. As at the moment here, Carlos, all the way down to Artur Leist as Felipe... Well, there we go. I was going to say top 10, top 11. Felipe Massa now dives into the pit lane. So does Daniel Serra. So everyone down to Artur Leist in 10th position have yet to serve their mandatory pit stops. Along with that, Zonta is going for a long overcut. He's going to be he's now up to 12th position. Pentikov, who started all the way down in 25th, is now up to 14th. So there is a lot of changes. I mean, Nelson Piquet Jr. finds himself coming out of the pit lane and down into around 23rd position. But by the time we have this cycle of pit stops, we'll really get a gauge of who's going to be where. But the way Campos is racing at the moment, he's looking very, very good. But it's about what Casagrange and Salas do, along with Elias. They've really got to put a number on Julio Campos, but he won't be scared easily.
No, not at all. And of course, as we saw yesterday in the sprint and today in the Formula One Grand Prix, the Austria Grand Prix, making it right in the pits will be decisive. Especially in this new format of the Stock Car Pro, in which we don't have the back-to-back races on Sunday anymore. Apparently, Casagrande and Salas both going to the pits. That's it. And interesting that you mentioned that yesterday's incident between Rafa Teixeira and Rafael Suzuki. In a way, Rafa Teixeira brake-tested Suzuki there in the pit entry. I don't believe it was intentional or anything like that, but he was disqualified from yesterday's race. Another update about yesterday, Ricardo Mauricio got a 20-second time penalty because of the incident with, was it Rubens Barrichello and Gabriel Casagrande? Yeah, that's it. The 3 drivers involved, and the stewards deemed Mauricio to blame after that incident, so he got a 20-second time penalty. It's not something that impacts the result ahead of the pack, the podium, and the winner is maintained.
So, Gabriel Casagrange and Guilherme Salas come out in front of Bruno Baptista in the number 44. So, 48.3 was the time for Matheus Vogel as Ricardo Mauricio ahead of Thiago Camilo, the resident Sterling Moss of the championship. As I said, it is a running joke between us here on Motorsport.tv, between myself, Carlos, and also Jake Sanson, who is otherwise indisposed this weekend. But again, just seeing how both Campos and Elias are so well planted in their respective cars, and it's really good to see that after the dramas between him and Gianluca Pentikov yesterday, Enzo Elias has got a fighting fit Toyota Corolla. Of course, we know that Toyota Gazoo Racing Brazil would love to win this race, but it's going to be a tall order. Chevrolet outnumbers Toyota, and hopefully with the fact that we'll have 4 manufacturers on the grid next season, it should be a bit more of an even keel. When it comes to competitive vehicles, Felipe Baptista now makes his way down the order in the Texaco livery Crown Racing car, the Texaco livery for the last 3 years, run by Indy 500 winner Tony Kanaan, who has been back in action quite recently at the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil Endurance Championship. The sprint of that has been happening this weekend at Estoril. And of course, it's been a very long time since a certain Ayrton Senna da Silva took his first Grand Prix victory for Lotus in Formula 1 back in 1985. Here we see Mugello as the team there go to work on the number 38 from KTF Racing. Of course, last year we do have still the KTF Sports and the KTF Racing dynamics with Caca Bueno, the sole driver for KTF Sports. I was really, really happy when, funny enough, you messaged me, Carlos, and said, yeah, it's confirmed, he's back. And I was like thinking, let's just hope he has a really, really good race. As Campos now finally pits on what will be lap 14. But I was so excited and we were so pleased to have him back. And it was like he'd never left. He was picking off opponents and made up 8 positions and got a really, really good finish. I mean, I was hoping maybe he could have gotten a top 5. It was close. But you know what? It's so good to have... yes, he's the elder statesman, but he hasn't lost a step.
No, not at all. Caca Bueno is a very important character in this grid. Of course, the injury was quite significant. It was a pretty strong impact there when the car pretty much flew in a specific corner of Interlagos. Then he hit the ground very strongly and, of course, was pretty injured. But anyway, he was able to bounce back. Even though he missed the Cascavel round, he was able to participate in a NASCAR Brazil event recently. So he was fully fit to come back, and he did it in a very good way in the rescheduled feature race of stage 2. Of course, bad luck yesterday with an issue in the car on the sprint race of this round number 5 of the series.
Yeah, broken left rear suspension for the number 0. The 5-time series champion who won titles in 2005, 06, 09, 11 and 2013 was the last time he picked up a title. And as we saw Cesar Ramos coming out of the pit lane, well, Bruno Baptista got ahead of him. And Enzo Elias now becomes the new race leader. Julio Campos. Well, Elias now finally pits on what will be the completion of lap number 15. We're not that far away, about a couple of minutes away from hitting half-time in this Stage 5 feature race. Stage 5 or round 5 out of 12. And, well, Gabriel Rob has also been doing a very... Now, Gabriel Rob started 27th. And he is currently up to P7, but he will be into the pit lane very, very shortly. But there we see Enzo Elias on his marks. And it looks like it should hopefully be a very good pit stop for the team at Crown Racing. So, right tyre on the rear, right tyre on the front. It looks like it was a fairly clean stop there for Crown Racing. But of course the big thing is, with a pit stop of around about 47, 48 seconds, it just depends on how big the gap was between Enzo Elias and Julio Campos before the number 28 came into the pit lane. And looks like people are happy down in Pole Motorsport, but look at the scrap here. This is Gabriel Casagrande, Guilherme Salas. So Campos has gotten ahead of Enzo Elias in the pit stop phase, despite the best efforts of Crown Racing. And look how defensive has gone Enzo Elias. Guilherme Salas keeping around the outside of Gabriel Casagrande. And there you see Bruno Baptista waiting in the wings to pick up the pieces. This is going to be an absolute scrap and a half here for P2. So Elias pushed to pass on. Casagrande pushed to pass on. Salas locks up the brakes going into turn 8. And Bruno Baptista trying to see if he can make his way through. Felipe Baptista in the meantime is closed on in. But, well, Julio Campos, 3.3 seconds is the advantage as we hit half-time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about, because the whole battle there is good for Campos. He extends his lead. Of course, Enzo Elias is still with a cold tire there. Gabriel Casagrande and Guilherme Salas already in their second lap, I believe, after the pits. But the season leader is right behind there. Felipe Batista, actually right behind Bruno Batista. They are not related. Felipe Batista is the younger brother of Vitor Batista that is in the back part of the grid. Anyway, interesting scenario so far, and good especially for Julio Campos.
Yes, indeed, because now, well, Felipe Baptista, being the new championship leader, will have the maximum ballast of 30 kilos on that 121 Toyota Corolla. As you see the speed from the curb cam coming through turn 4 and into 5. This is going to give every bit of impetus as they're all over the place, trying to make the best line possible as they're going to go up the hill in towards turn 7. Elias goes defensive ahead of Casagrange. Baptista going round the outside. Felipe Baptista got round the outside of Bruno Baptista. What a move from the 121. And now he's gunning for Guilherme Salas and Gabriel Casagrange. And more to the point, this could be a very, very interesting way. Even if Toyota Gazoo Racing Brazil don't pick up the victory, if they can lock out the podium, it'll be definitely something to celebrate.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about the success ballast, important to mention, Felipe Batista carries 30 kilos, as we see the replay there of the battle between Casagrande and Elias. Now Felipe Batista overtaking Bruno Batista. And let's see if Guilherme Salas will be able to hold the young driver off the Crown TMG team. But Batista carries 30 kilos, Zonta 25. Zonta it sits second in the standings, and it's only 2 points gap between them. Then Felipe Massa third with 20 kilos, but Massa has a quite big deficit to Felipe Batista. 49 points gap between the two of them. And then Rafael Suzuki, Dudu Barrichello, and Julio Campos. Campos carrying 5 kilos in his.
So it puts Julio Campos at a distinct advantage as Duru and Rubinho Barrichello, the father and son duo, Duru out qualifying and also outperforming his father. They're running 10th and 11th at the moment, with Felipe Fraga, Ricardo Mauricio, Artur Leis running the special GP 100 Toyota livery. All moment there for Enzo Elias. Locks up under braking as they go up the hill. Now they're going to go back down it again. And this is the run down towards turns 8, 9 and 10. And in they go. Casagrange keeping a tight line ahead of Guilherme Salas. Felipe Baptista looks to have a little bit of urgency in the way that he's driving the 121 Texaco Racing. Crown Racing Toyota. And now as they make their way through into turn 11. And now another fast, very big sweeping corner here through turn number 12. Enzo Elias has started to pull away from Gabriel Casagrange, but what can Felipe Baptista do behind Guilherme Salas? Let's find out. Push to pass activated by Casagrange and Salas. I don't think I saw it activated on Felipe Baptista. No, he didn't. However, Enzo Elias did, so did Julio Campos, because now the gap has come down. It's 2 seconds. 2 seconds between Campos and Elias. Elias starting to pick up the pace very shortly. When they go through the end of sector number 1, which will be coming at the crisscross going through turns 4 and 5, that's where it'll break the timing beam. And Elias is quicker in both sectors. There's Rafael Teixeira. Teixeira has come to a stop. The number 37 Chevy Cruze comes to a halt. Could this bring out a possible safety car intervention? We'll wait for word from race controllers. Nelson Piquet Jr. battling with Gianluca Pentikov in the number 101. This is the battle for 18th position. Piquet Jr. got himself up towards the bottom end of the top 10 by the time he hit the pit stop phase. But with 20 and a half minutes to go, if he's kept a few more push to passes, well, Rafael Teixeira has got the car moving again. So no need for either localized double-waved yellows or a potential safety car intervention. And as we are about to hit half an hour out of this 50-minute race completed, Gabriel Casagrange finding himself under more pressure from KTF Racing's Guilherme Salas in the number 85. I mean, time. Well, Gaetano Di Mauro is closing in on Bruno Baptista from RCM Motorsport as again Casagrange applies the push to pass. Elias decides not to do so. And Elias gets that gap down to just over 1.8 seconds. Carlos, we've got nearly 19 and a half minutes to go, plus an additional lap. I think the race is starting now between Campos and Elias, more importantly.
Yeah, the thing is that Campos now has an advantage that will allow him to manage a bit the pushes and the tire situation. as well. Of course, he has way more experience than Enzo Elias in the series. Enzo is only in his second full-time season in this category, whereas Julio Campos is one of the most veteran guys in this grid. So theoretically, his situation is favorable, even though the gap isn't that big, a little bit less than 2 seconds. So Enzo has to push, and the good thing for him is that Gabriel Casagrande is still under pressure from Guilherme Salas, apart from the fact that Felipe Batista is getting closer and closer. So that's an interesting scenario, and of course, Rubens now going to the overtake.
Well, he's ahead of Felipe Fraga as they're battling over 11th spot. Cesar Ramos is being closed in on by Felipe Massa in the leading TMG racing car, number 19, emblazoned in the Lubrac's podium livery. And one of the big things now is, what does Felipe Fraga have in his box of tricks to see if he can get past the steely-eyed and always smiling veteran that is Rubens Barrichello, a man that competed in over 300 Grand Prix in Formula 1. Back-end stepped out to the left-hand side in the 111 for Rubens. As, well, Felipe Massa trying to go around the outside, heading into turn 1 on Cesar Ramos in the number 30. 18 minutes and 10 seconds still to go. Everyone has served their mandatory pit stop, so it's full throttle and it's push right up until the checkered. Meantime, well, it could be very interesting on how the gap evolves between Julio Campos and Enzo Elias. It goes down to just over 1.7 seconds for the first time for a long time in this race, as Felipe Fraga again tries to get the traction down, coming up the hill in towards turn 6 and 7. There is Campos, there is Elias. Oh, and Casagrande has closed the gap to him. Now, Casagrande has managed to pull a little bit of a distance between himself and the 85 of KTF Racing's Guilherme Salas. Now, this is the battle for the second step on the podium, but if they start indirectly working together and start pushing forward, they might be able to catch Julio Campos. Of course, that gap looks larger than it is actually. As they do say with regards to wing mirrors on certain domestic automotive markets, objects may be closer than they appear. And this picture tells a big part of this story, because also not just Elias and Casagrande second and third, but also Salas and Felipe Baptista are trying to close the gap. Bit of a big gap between Felipe Baptista and Bruno Baptista in the numbers 121 and 44. Gaetano Di Mauro, Cesar Ramos, Felipe Massa, Eduardo Barrichello. They ran out the top 10, covered by 8.9 seconds after 21 laps of racing. So we are due to hit around 31, 32 laps of completed racing action here for round 5 out of 12 here at Velocita. They celebrated a little bit of history themselves. I think 12 years as operation as a main time circuit here in Brazil. And it really is a great place for Stock Car Pro racing, the Stock Car Pro Series racing, and also the affiliated categories such as FIA Brazilian Formula 4 and the Stock Series, which is the feeder class to the top tier of racing here in Brazil, Stock Car Pro Series. And this battle is getting even more intense. That's one thing I haven't commented on, but I am now. As, oh, dive bomb up the inside of Guilherme Salas through turn 8. Felipe Baptista robustly makes his way through. That's fourth.
What a move. We all know that Felipe Batista will try the overtaking maneuver when the gap presents itself. And it was the case in that all tricky last sector of the track. Guilherme Salas trying to get quite close there to Gabriel Casagrande, but eventually he opened a bit of a gap to Felipe Batista that was using the push. And that's a difficult maneuver there. Alex, we have been seeing actually Felipe making 2 mistakes in the feature race, if I'm not wrong. Also Artur Leish, so he was able to use the push. Of course, benefited from the fact that he had more power, around 90 horsepower of gap between the car in the regular state and the cars with the push to pass, but spectacular maneuver.
Wow, that's one of the overtakes of the season so far. Like literally launching it from way back when into turn number 8. And Felipe Baptista now is going to start pushing. He's got an opportunity. He might be just under 4 seconds behind the race leader. And there he is, Julio Campos. Oh, as possible dramas here. That's Attila Abreu in the number 51, running a little bit slowly. So there could be dramas. for the number 51 from Pole Motorsport. Teammate 2, Julio Campos. Well, looks like he's trying to gather speed, but he's got Cezinho Mugiati closing in on him. And, well, yeah, I think that's terminal. I think there's problems. Drive shafts have been a topic of discussion as well here at Velocità. And I think very shortly we're going to see our first main retirement, and that could be Attila Abreu. But can he keep the car going? If he does, it's going to help him secure points. That's Lucas Cole, originally with the Hot Car New Generation squad last year, now partnering Gabriel Rob in the number 35 at Joaquin Gara, both running in the Chevrolet Cruises. But, well, Enzo Elias has now pulled away from Gabriel Casagrange. We've got 13 and a half minutes, plus an additional lap still to go. Campos is just keeping it nice and cool and calm at the front end of the field, but you can see that Enzo Elias' Crown Racing Toyota Corolla looking a little bit on edge just by the way he's handling that beast around this circuit.
Yeah, but talking about Attila Abreu's issue there, it doesn't make any sense to continue on track. He clearly has an issue with the car, and he was already in the bottom part of the timesheets. Last time I checked, he was P25, so he has to pull over.
Yeah, he's probably going to limp that car back home to the pit lane, and that'll be a real shame for the number 51 from Pole Motorsport. It's not been an easy one for him over the last couple of seasons, but here comes the offensive. And this is into turn number... Oh, no! I cannot believe my eyes. Side by side, wheel to wheel. And that is another outstanding overtake. Felipe Baptista past the defending champion, Gabriel Casagrange, at turn 8. And that's third. What a run. I can't believe that. We look at the replay. He was on the push to pass again. Felipe Baptista has found turn 8 to be from a hindrance over the course of the weekend to be his sweetest overtaking spot. Once round Guilherme Salas, and then he puts a move like that round the defending champion. Brilliant work.
Brilliant work indeed. And in a way, even though Gabriel Casagrange is still very young, he, as a two-time champion, has a big status in this series. It was a battle of generations. A couple of years ago, if I'm not wrong, Felipe Baptista was the stock light, the current stock series champion, the support series champion, and he made a big impression when he made his debut season in the KDF Sports team last year. But with some encounters with Gabriel Casagrange on track, Casagrange actually complained a bit about Felipe Baptista's aggressiveness, and now he was aggressive once more, but perfectly aggressive. And what a move.
Yes, indeed. Well, it could be the fact that even though Enzo Elias is fighting losing battle behind Julio Campos in terms of becoming a new race winner this season, well, Enzo Elias hasn't picked up a win this year. Neither has Julio Campos, as Bruno Baptista very much into battle into turn 8 here with Gaetano Di Mauro from Cavaliero Sports. The new signing announced just literally 10 minutes before we went live here on Motorsport.tv that he's going to be the new teammate at the all-new lineup for Eurofarma RC, 2016 Stock Car Pro Series champion Felipe Fraga, and this man here in the number 11 who won the sprint race yesterday, becoming the first two-time winner of the championship season. But we are on the way to having a new, different winner. It will be our 9th of the season, the way things stand, if it finishes like it is with 10.5 minutes to go. But Julio Campos has been waiting for the opportunity to take a race win. It hasn't come easy, but now he's got that opportunity. He's pulled a gap of about 1.9, nearly 2 seconds over Enzo Elias. Now we go back to another replay. We're going to see on board here with Artur Leis. Now that is Ricardo Mauricio and Felipe Fraga. They're squabbling going through into turn 1. Fraga up the inside of the number 90 in towards turn 2. Now Artur Leis. Oh, and a run wide there from Ricardo Mauricio heading into turn 3. So that was a good move there by Felipe Fraga. Slight bit of paint swapping between himself and Ricardo Mauricio. But the 2016 Stock Car Pro Series champion makes his way through on the 3-time Series champion up to P12. As Gaetano Di Mauro finally has got his way past Bruno Baptista. As the battle's still going on between these two jousters, and a punch from behind via the front bumper onto the rear of Felipe Fraga. That's again going to bring Artur Leist, who's running with the special GP Toyota 100 livery on the bonnet of the number 98. Now another replay here. Now this is the move where Gaetano Di Mauro gets through on Bruno Baptista. Teed it up nicely. Clean move between the pair, and even a little bit sideways from the number 11 Cavallero sports car. And now he's pulled away from Bruno Baptista. So Gaetano Di Mauro rounds out the top 6. And, well, what can you say about Julio Campos? 2.6 seconds up the road as we're on lap 27 with 8 3/4 minutes plus an additional lap to go. Carlos, it looks like we're on course. Well, Toyota could have wished for a victory, but Chevrolet might steal the thunder, despite the fact that they've got Toyota Gazoo Racing Brazil have got 2 of their cars rounding out the top 3 at the moment.
Yeah, but Campos is managing his lead very well, and we have to highlight the fact that Enzo Elias is pushing quite a lot. A couple of laps ago, he was faster than Campos, but I believe that Julio was managing his pushes and his tires in order to have a good condition in the end.
Artur Leist now trying to go around the outside of Ricardo Mauricio. That's not easy. And they're both on the push to pass straight away. And just behind them is Ricardo Zonta. Then Daniel Serra. Then Thiago Camillo. Gianluca Pentecoff rounds out 18th, head of Nelson Piquet Jr. Caca Bueno, the 5-time series champion, rounding out the top 20. It's all coming down to its inevitable conclusion here at round 5 out of 12 for the 2024 Brazilian Stock Car Pro Series season, live here on Motorsport TV. Don't forget, folks, you can watch every single round as it happens, from qualifying to both sprint and feature races at all of the remaining 7 rounds after this one. And Attila Abreu still deciding to keep the car out on circuit. I'm not too sure what this is going to prove, but I think I'm very much in agreement with you, Carlos, that he'd be better off pulling that car into the pit lane, retiring from the race, and just refresh, refocus for Goiânia in 4 weeks.
Especially when his teammate is leading the pack, because he's risking a major failure there in the car and then a safety car. That's the last thing Júnior Campos wants in this moment.
I agree with you on that front, because then that would literally decimate a 2.2 second advantage here on lap 28. But still, battles up and down the order. Have to give Ricardo Zonta a little bit of credit here, because ever since he had that drama, as, oh dearie me, Attila Abreu just needs to park it. I'm sorry. But here is Artur Leist. And he was trying to go around the outside. That would have been going into turn number 2. Tries for the inside line. Doesn't get the job done, so Mauricio is still ahead. And Artur Leist on the push to pass, heading into turn 8. And Ricardo Mauricio slightly backing them all up a little bit there. But holding his racing line, which he's very much entitled to do. And there is a train of cars rounded out by Gianluca Pentecoff. Meantime, Dudu Barrichello trying to get through on Felipe Massa. This is the battle for 9th, and he's got his dad in tow. Rubens. Oh, now, was there a little bit of a nibble from Dudu on Filipinho? Possibly. So, dramas for Lucas Cole in the number 95 working Garrett. He's not had a good weekend at all. Oh, loses the back end.
Goodness.
Oh, Lucas Cole.
Completely alone.
Yeah, I think just hit the throttle a little bit too early. As again, going into turn 1, here on lap number 29, Artur Leist absolutely determined, and then some, to try and get past Ricardo Mauricio. Daniel Serra is just a couple of cars behind the number 81. And in between, he's got Ricardo Zonta in the number 10. This is just getting to be very, very aggressive towards the latter stages of the races. A little bit of an assist from Thiago Camillo on the back bumper there of Daniel Serra. Oh, the back end wiggles to the right-hand side on Daniel Serra's car as they head up through turns 6 and 7. Serra goes defensive into 7. And he was very, very lucky indeed that the back end of that Eurofama RC Chevy Cruze did not spin around. But Thiago Camillo straight away coming out of turn 7 on the run down towards the outside of turn number 8. And he's got through on push to pass. Serra did not fight it. Now, also, one of the other things you did see with the 3 signs accompanying the braking zone markers. So 150, 100, and then 50 with the monkey with the hands on their eyes, like saying, "Look out." That was definitely more than likely a warning to both Arthur Laced and Felipe Baptista earlier on this weekend. That's something quite comical. You don't normally see that at a race circuit, so I think probably the team at Velocita decided to put that in for a little bit of a joke.
And it's a good joke, and I think it's a good warning as well. When you see the last monkey, race yourself.
Yeah, exactly. We're coming down to the final 4 minutes, and still the battles wage on. As between Gabriel Casagrange and Guilherme Salas, it's been nip and tuck between the pair of them. Not even half a tenth in terms of lap times. But there is Julio Campos. He now has a 2.3 second advantage over Enzo Elias. However, I sense a little bit of foreboding news coming here that Felipe Baptista is catching Enzo Elias. So Felipe Baptista looks to be a little bit more racy than the number 28 from Crown Racing. And finally, Attila Abreu pulls it into the pit lane and parks it in the garage. That is the Pole Motorsports drivers' race done.
And two good news for Julio Campos. Attila Abreu is not risking a safety car anymore, and apart from that, Felipe Batista battling with Enzo Elias, something that will probably benefit the race leader, as Elias and Batista lose time against each other. And now, once more, Gabriel Casagrande under pressure from Guilherme Salas. Salas, a pain in the neck of Casagrande in this.
Yeah, I think he's like thinking, right, okay, how many push-to-passes have I got left? I've got to use all of them. I've got to use all of them to defend against Salas. And Salas is taking full advantage of Casagrange using the push-to-pass, because as soon as he does that, yes, he gets the additional power. But then also you have to think of the fact that Guilherme Salas is taking advantage of the slipstream. The dirty air that's passing over Gabriel Casagrange's car. And more importantly, yes, it's going to make the KTF Racing 85 a little bit slipperier in the slipstream, but it's going to give him additional top speed and acceleration out of specific corners. As this is the battle for P4 and 5. So this is going to be very much the case as to see who will come out on top for this one. Someone kicked up the dirt. It might have been Felipe Baptista trying to chase down Enzo Elias, because the gap between them is now 8.5 tenths of a second and closing. Felipe Baptista is now going to try and see if he can put the Texaco Racing Crown Racing car. Of course, his teammate is the one he's in front of, and I'm sure there's probably some messages coming from the pit wall. Okay, guys, you are free to race. However, this is our 100th race for Toyota. Don't put a foot wrong. Don't muck it up. We need to get these points for not just us, but also for the team. And also, this could further extend the lead for Felipe Baptista if he gets second, because you look at where Zonta is, 15th, Suzuki, all the way down in 27th. This is going to mean that Felipe Baptista will have a bigger lead coming out of Velocita. And he was quoted on the Stock Car official website saying, "I want to be the championship leader, leaving Velocita." And this could very well happen. But they've got to be very, very careful of Elias and Baptista. They don't want to trip over each other's shoelaces right about now.
Yeah, from Batista's perspective, his point of view, it's an interesting situation. Of his title rivals, only Julio Campos in this moment ahead of him. And in terms of the fight between Batista and Elias, apart from sharing the manufacturer, they share the teammate, so they cannot crash at all.
Yep, 30 seconds on the timer, plus an additional lap. So we are making our way up through turn 7. So it could be very nip and tuck. We could be on the penultimate lap of the race. We're on lap 32. As Julio Campos makes his way down the dip into the left-hander at turn 8. What could be the penultimate time of this race? Yes, we are going to go on to one more lap. So this will be the penultimate lap of the race. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the penultimate lap of this GP Toyota 100. And, well, Gabriel Casagrange is still coming under fire from Guilherme Salas. As very shortly, we're going to have one more tour of this 3.443 kilometre circuit. And it's going to be another driver that's looking to go from pole position, from lights out to checkered flag. So far this season, Felipe Baptista did it at the season opener at Goiânia. Daniel Serra did it in the rescheduled feature race this past Friday. And Julio Campos could be the third person to do that this season, from Snapdragon pole position to checkered flag. As in Pole Motorsport, the team are awaiting the number 4, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid here in Stock Car Pro Series. He hasn't put a foot wrong. He's made sure, yes, it might be the GP Toyota 100, but it's my day. It's my opportunity to really bring myself into a championship fight. I need this right now. As he goes in towards turn number 7, it looks like Crown Racing are going to hold station, possibly 7/10 between Enzo Elias and Felipe Baptista. But down the hill, on the run down towards turn 8 for the final time. And there you see the monkey signs I was just talking about there. Well, the 150, 150 metre marker board through turn 8, now into 9. Just a handful of corners to go. It's now going to be through in towards turn number 10 and 11. Here at Autodromo Velocità. Checkered flag being prepared. And here we go, team on the pit wall, waiting to greet the man who becomes the third person from pole position in the feature to win the GP Toyota 100. Muito parabéns to Pole Motorsport and to Julio Campos, who led every single one of these 33 laps here at Velocità. And what's more, Toyota Gazoo Racing Brazil have something to celebrate, and so do Crown Racing. Enzo Elias and Felipe Baptista round out the top 3. But that makes it, out of 10 races so far, 9 different winners. Carlos, what a spectacle. A classic here of the GP Toyota 100 in Velocità.
What a race. Nice to see the celebration of the Crown TMG team there, which is good for Toyota, of course. Chevrolet won with Julio Campos and the Pole Motorsport car, but an impressive performance from Felipe Baptista. A nice charge to third, and the checkered flag, of course. Possibly he could have been second, but he wouldn't risk it all against his teammate, and that's an interesting situation that develops, as well as now Felipe Baptista has a competitive Enzo Elias alongside him. Enzo finally completely adapted to the series in his second full-time season in the Stock Car Pro, but Julio Campos has to celebrate as he is in the picture. What a drive, a very dominant drive. He didn't leave room for any attack by Enzo Elias, and from green flag to checkered flag, he was the guy. Of course, an important result for him also in terms of championship standings. We have to remember he was 6th before this feature race of stage 5. Now he grabs actually 80 points from this race win. The bad thing for him is that Felipe Baptista has now 69 points more, so he stands his lead against Rafael Suzuki, Felipe Massa and the rest of the pack, but that's a very important result for Campos and Pole Motorsport. They bounce back to their winning days in the series, and that's a very big boost in the championship standings as well. But what a race, we had it all, and hats off to Campos, also to Enzo Elias, now establishing himself as an important driver in the series, and Felipe Baptista, young, over-aggressive a bit of times, but a very fast driver.
And very exciting, with 2 of the best moves this season from Felipe Baptista. Also, an interesting statistic, in the top 10, 50% were Toyotas, 50% were Chevrolet, as there is the team ready to greet our 9th different race winner, Julio Campos, back to winning ways, from lights out to checkered flag. After 33 laps, Chevrolet and Pole Motorsport might win the GP Toyota 100, but Crown Racing will definitely be happy with a big haul of points for Enzo Elias and Felipe Baptista, who pick up 74 and 69 points apiece, which will put Felipe Baptista with a little bit of an advantage, leaving here at Velocità when we head to Goiânia on the 27th and the 28th of July 2024 for the halfway point of this year's exciting, dramatic and aggressive Stock Car Pro Series. And even Stockinho gets in for a quick cheeky picture as well, the mascot that we now have come to know and also appreciate as part of the dynamics of the paddock here at Stock Car Pro Series. There's more of the team ready to greet Julio Campos, our feature winner, and Felipe Baptista doing a very, very stellar job. Yes, his style might be aggressive. Yes, it might put people's noses out of joints. But you cannot dispute the fact that this young man is going to be a title rival for everybody. No matter who you are, no matter your experience, no matter how many titles or race wins you've secured, he is one to watch this season. Enzo Elias also gets greeted by the Crown Racing team. And a great run for the number 28, now into his second season as a stock car pro racing driver, picking up P2, and great points for Crown Racing in general in terms when it comes to the teams championship here as well, Carlos, because Crown Racing, we've seen fits and starts with regards to their performances, but that now shows that Crown Racing really are a force to be reckoned with in Stock Car Pro Series.
Yeah, definitely. And it's nice to see the Crown team back to their top, back to the best form, to say the least. But of course, we think about how many seasons we see without consistency from the team, because the last very competitive season of Crown in the Stock Car Pro Series, if I'm not wrong, was back in 2019. The driver roster had just Kaká Bueno, Felipe Fraga, and Gabriel Casagrande, Alex. And now, with young guns such as Felipe Batista and Enzo Elias, they are back on their top. And, of course, it will be very nice to see this battle between generations. Julio Campos, title contender, Felipe Batista as well, Rafael Suzuki, we cannot discount him, a very experienced driver and a wise fox of this category, apart from Gabriel Casagrande. We always have to remember that he's always there grabbing points. The previous races weren't good for him, but he qualified third and finished with a pretty decent result this time, which is very important. That's the recipe that made Daniel Serra actually 3 times champion in consecutive seasons. In 2019, for example, he had only 1 race win, but was able to grab points and points and points, which is, of course, very important in this series with this format of racing. But anyway, a very nice race, and we have a lot to look at into the rest of the season.
Yes, Stock Car Pro Series silly season with Eurofarma RC now confirming their 2025 lineup. It's going to be an all-new crew. Ricardo Mauricio and Daniel Serra mutually deciding to leave the team, and in their place will be Gaetano Di Mauro and Felipe Fraga. So, Felipe Baptista, 45 points is his advantage heading into Goiânia in just 4 weeks' time, ahead of Julio Campos, who moves up to second in the standings. Ricardo Zonta a further point behind in third. Felipe Massa, Bruno Baptista ran out the top 5. Duru Barrichello, 88 points behind Felipe Baptista, but not out of the hunt yet. Enzo Elias 7th, ahead of Gabriel Casagrande. Rafael Suzuki came in as the points leader. He leaves 9th in the standings, ahead of Guilherme Salas, who rounds out the top 10. Julio Campos becomes the 9th different race winner out of 10 so far this season. Gaetano Di Mauro, the only driver to pick up 2 wins so far this season. And this man from Pole Motorsport in the number 4 Chevy Cruze, one ahead of Enzo Elias and Felipe Baptista. Plenty of photos being taken. Lots of celebration, especially at Crown Racing, representing the Japanese manufacturer Toyota. Gabriel Casagrande, Guilherme Salas rounded out the top 5. Head of Gaetano Di Mauro, Bruno Baptista, Cesar Ramos, Felipe Baptista and Duru Barrichello rounding out the top 10. Well, there you go. Pole Motorsport have the title of Medio Equipe, which is basically the best team. Then we see the 2 Crown Racing teammates, Felipe Baptista and Enzo Elias. And here is the race winner, Julio Campos. Handshakes and hugs with everybody, and it's well deserved. I'm trying to remember, when was Julio Campos' last race victory here, Carlos, in Stock Car Pro Series, because it's been a bit of a lengthy time.
Yeah, and even though he's regular in this series, he has not such a big number of race wins, 5 race wins prior to this one. He got his 6th pole position, if I'm not wrong. He's always there, but Campos, that is competing in the Stock Car Pro Series since 2010, he sometimes has bad luck in terms of having consistent teams. His last, I would say, competitive team, apart from TMG last year, was Prati Donaduzzi back in 2019 as well, with the team principal that is now leading the Blau Motorsport squad. And they're in the best team podium position. There is Joselmo Batic Poli, that is his nickname, Alex. That's why the team is called Pole Motorsport.
Yes, indeed. So, Pole Motorsport get the best team, obviously the winning team. Felipe Baptista gets his third place trophy. Enzo Elias gets his second place trophy. And your winner of the GP Toyota 100 feature race here at round 5, it is none other than the number 4 of Pole Motorsports, Julio Campos. Great to see the fans and also family members in the background. But a well-deserved drive for the man that has been around for quite a long time. I think it was when we had the Volkswagen Bora back in the day, in the mid-2000s, he was competing then. And he has been with the championship for quite a long time. But still, to see him back on winning ways, it really is good to see that Julio Campos is going to be all smiles. But Felipe Baptista is now your new championship leader, and it's about that time to celebrate, as well, the champagne very much being sprayed, and Felipe Baptista goes straight for the straight from the man from Pole Motorsports straight away. But it's a well-deserved respite. Carlos, this 5th round of the championship season has really opened things up. We've now had Felipe Baptista open up a 45-point advantage, and Julio Campos' nearest rival with Ricardo Zonta. Rafael Suzuki is going to be scratching his head along with the team to say, right, what do we need to do to fight back? They've got to put it all on the line, because this championship, like we've seen in previous seasons here at Stock Car Pro Series, will go down to the wire at the BRB Super Final at Interlagos at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pachi in late December.
Yeah, that's the best thing. We still didn't reach the halfway of the season. Next time out, it will be Goiânia, July 28th. So there's a lot to come. Of course, it may seem a big advantage for Felipe Batista, but 45 points is not that much in such a long season. And it will be very good to watch these battles. And as you said, the championship fight is still a bit open, and there we see Ricardo Mauricio presented a trophy for the fastest lap, I believe.
Yeah, fastest lap of the race of the weekend. Well, 131.669 for the man, along with teammate Daniel Serra, a 3-time champion. Ricardo Mauricio taking home the fastest lap trophy of the weekend. Well, that wraps up coverage here live on Motorsport.tv of the 2024 Stock Car Pro Series season here at Autodromo Velocità. So, on behalf of Carlos Costa, my name's Alex Goldschmidt. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in 4 weeks at Goiânia for the halfway point in the season. Goodbye.